If this video found you tonight, if something about that title stopped you mid-scroll and you clicked without fully knowing why I need you to stay, because you almost didn't click. Part of you hesitated, part of you thought, I've heard things like this before, and nothing changed. But something deeper, something underneath the doubt said, open it, and you did. That part of you is the part I'm speaking to right now. I know something about you. You have been doing the work, quietly, privately, in ways that nobody around you fully sees or understands. You have been healing and growing and unlearning things that took years to build inside you, and you have been doing it mostly alone, not because you don't have people in your life, but because the version of you that is emerging doesn't quite have witnesses yet. You have changed enormously, and your world hasn't caught up. And lately, especially in these last few weeks, there has been this silence, not a peaceful silence, the kind of silence that makes you wonder if anything is actually coming, or if you've been praying into a void. I need you to hear me. You have not been praying into a void. There is a lunar eclipse building right now in the sign of Virgo, and the fact that you are watching this before it arrives is not something I'm going to gloss over, because that timing matters. Eclipses don't just happen to you, they happen for you, but only if you understand what they're carrying. And this one, this specific one, is carrying something that has your name written into it. What I'm about to walk you through over the next 25 minutes is going to change the way you see everything you've been going through. The waiting, the silence, the moments where you almost gave up. By the time this video ends, you will understand exactly why it all took this long and what begins within the next 7 days. But I need to start by telling you something first. Something about where you've really been and why it's been so heavy. There is this feeling you have been carrying. And I don't mean carrying the way people casually say it, I mean carrying the way your body knows it. You feel it in your chest first. That tightness that shows up when you're trying to hold too much together. Your shoulders carry it too. Your jaw, that tension you don't even notice anymore because it's been there so long it feels normal. You have been tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind of tired that comes from being the person who always holds it together, the one people come to when things fall apart, the one who notices what everyone else misses, who fixes what nobody asked her to fix, who shows up with her whole heart even on the days when she has almost nothing left. And you have been told you're strong, so many times, until the word stopped feeling like a compliment and started feeling like a cage, because strong means no one checks on you. Strong means no one asks how you're really doing. Strong means you carry it alone and smile while you do it. I know about the nights, the ones around 2 in the morning when you're lying there, and this thought surfaces, this quiet, terrifying thought. Is this just it? Is this what all the effort was for? You push it down. You talk yourself out of it by morning, but it keeps coming back. And each time it comes back, it sits lower in your stomach, a little heavier, a little harder to push down by morning. I know about the prayers, not the formal kind, the raw kind, the ones you whisper in the shower when the water is loud enough to cover your voice, the ones you send up in the car before you walk into work, the ones that don't even have words sometimes, just this ache in your chest that reaches towards something and hopes it's listening. You haven't been asking for anything extravagant. That's the part that makes it sting. You're not asking for a mansion or a miracle. You're asking for peace, real peace. The kind you feel in your body, not the kind you perform for others. You're asking for something to finally work out, for someone to love you in a way that doesn't require you to shrink, for your life to feel like it actually fits you. And you haven't told anyone about these prayers because they feel too vulnerable, too exposed. And some part of you is afraid that if you say them out loud and they don't come true, the grief will be worse than the wanting. Can I tell you something? The fact that you are still hoping after everything that has made hoping hard, that is not weakness. That is the bravest thing about you. You have been so quietly brave for so long with no proof that it was leading anywhere. and no one, not one person, has looked you in the eye and said, "I see how hard this has been." So let me be the first. I see it. I see all of it, and it has not been for nothing. Now, let me tell you what is really happening. Because what you have been living through has a name. It has a cosmic architecture, and it has an expiration date. A lunar eclipse is not just a full moon. A regular full moon illuminates. It brings things to the surface, yes, but gently. An eclipse is different. An eclipse interrupts the light. It breaks a pattern that has been running so long you forgot it was a pattern. Think of it this way. A full moon is the universe tapping you on the shoulder. A lunar eclipse is the universe turning the lights off in a room you've been sitting in for too long, so that when the lights come back on, you finally see the door you've been sitting next to the entire time. This eclipse is in Virgo, and when I tell you what Virgo carries, you are going to recognize yourself in every word. Virgo is the sign of the sacred worker, the one who heals, refines, improves, serves often at the expense of herself. Virgo is the part of you that has been working on yourself in silence, the part that journals at midnight, the part that went to therapy not because it was trendy but because you couldn't breathe inside the life you'd built, the part that holds the standard even when no one is watching. If you have ever felt like you give and give and give and the world just takes, that is your Virgo energy. And this eclipse is speaking directly to it. And here is what makes this eclipse so specific to you. This moon in Virgo is sitting directly opposite the sun in Pisces. And that opposition, that tension, is the exact tension you have been living in. Pisces is faith. Pisces is the part of you that whispers, something is coming, keep going, trust. And Virgo is the part that says, but where is the evidence? Show me the proof. I have been trusting and nothing has changed. You feel it as a split. Some mornings you wake up with this quiet knowing today could be different. By evening, the knowing has been swallowed by evidence. Nothing changed, nothing moved. And the believing part of you goes quiet again, a little more bruised than the day before. You have been caught between those two voices for months, the one that believes and the one that demands proof, and it has been exhausting. That push and pull, that feeling of knowing something is coming but seeing nothing in your physical reality to confirm it, that is not confusion. That is the exact energetic axis this eclipse is activating. You were never lost. You were living on a fault line that was about to shift. And here is the piece that changes everything. This is a South Node eclipse. That means it is not here to add something new to your life. Not yet. It is here to remove the last thing standing between you and what's been trying to reach you. The South Node deals in release, in completion, in karmic debts that are finally being settled. That feeling of stagnation, that almost but not quite energy that has not been your life, refusing to move forward, that has been the final layers of an old story being peeled away. The story that says you have to earn everything good through suffering. The story that says if it hasn't happened yet, it was never meant for you. That story is in its final chapter, and this eclipse writes the last page. And I need you to understand something about the timing. An eclipse is not a single moment, it is a window. The peak is one night, but the energy radiates forward roughly 7 days, and that is when the physical world begins to catch up to the energetic shift that has already happened beneath the surface. You are inside that window right now. That is why the title of this video says 7 days. Not because I chose a number that sounds compelling, because that is how eclipse energy works. It cracks something open, and then for 7 days the light pours through the crack and rearranges your reality from the inside out. And this is where I need you to stay with me, because this is where it shifts. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are standing inside a house. This house is your life, everything you've built, everything you've known, every room you've arranged to feel safe. Now, imagine that months ago, maybe longer, you made the decision to renovate, not because the house was falling down, but because you had outgrown it. The rooms were too small. The layout didn't match who you were becoming. So the walls came down, and at first, that felt powerful. That felt like progress. But here is what nobody tells you about renovation. There is a middle phase after the demolition, before the rebuild, where you are standing inside an active construction site, and it does not feel like transformation. It feels like destruction. It feels like you made the biggest mistake of your life, because you can remember what the house looked like before, and you cannot yet see what it will look like after. All you can see is the mess. That is where you have been. Think about what you have torn down. The relationship you walked away from, that was a wall. The boundary you set with someone who didn't take it well, that was a load-bearing beam, and you pulled it out knowing the ceiling might shake. The version of yourself that used to say yes to everything, that used to shrink to fit, that used to perform being okay, you demolished her. Not because she was bad, but because she was a room you could no longer breathe in. And every one of those decisions was right. But nobody warned you that right decisions don't feel like relief at first. They feel like standing in rubble, holding a hammer, wondering what you've done. Now here is what this eclipse reveals. Virgo is the architect, the cosmic architect. And this lunar eclipse is the moment the architect walks into your construction site, looks at the demolition you have done, looks at a blueprint you cannot yet see, and says, the structure is ready. We build now. You have been living in the demolition phase without the blueprint. That is why it has felt so chaotic. You could see what you were tearing down. You could not see what it was making room for. But it goes deeper than that. And this is the part that I need you to really hear. The house was never just being torn apart. It was being rebuilt at the same time. You couldn't see it because the new rooms were being constructed behind walls you hadn't pulled down yet. While you were standing in the dust, while you were crying in the mess, wondering if you had ruined your own life, rooms were being finished that you didn't even know existed. New rooms. Rooms with higher ceilings than anything you had before. Rooms with windows where there used to be walls. A kitchen with space enough to nourish yourself, and not just everyone else. A bedroom that belongs only to you, where you don't have to perform peace, but can actually feel it. They were being built by every tear you cried, every boundary you held when it would have been easier to collapse. Every night you chose to keep going, when the simpler thing would have been to rebuild the old walls and crawl back into the small rooms you knew. Every prayer you whispered into what you thought was silence, that prayer was a nail driven into a frame you couldn't see. The house is almost finished, and you have been standing in the only unfinished room, looking at the dust, looking at the debris, calling it failure. I need you to close your eyes for a moment, or just soften your gaze. Picture yourself in that room, the unfinished one. The one with the dust and the debris and the open walls. The room where you have been living. The room where you have been praying. The room where you have asked over and over, was any of this worth it? Now, I need you to see a door in that room. A door you haven't noticed because you have been so focused on the mess around you that you never thought to look. Walk to it. Open it. And on the other side, every room you thought you were losing, rebuilt, not the way they were, better, stronger, lighter. Rooms you didn't even know you were allowed to want. Rooms that were constructed by hands you couldn't see, on a timeline you couldn't control, from a blueprint that was drawn the moment you first whispered, I want more than this. That is what the next 7 days begin to reveal. Not the whole house, but the door. This lunar eclipse opens the door. And for the first time, you will see what was being built while you thought nothing was happening. You were never standing in destruction. You were standing in construction. You just couldn't see it from where you were standing. And here is what I need you to understand about who you are right now, today, in this moment, watching this video. Because who you are right now is not who you were when you first started praying for change. And that matters more than you realize. The same traits that made this waiting period so painful are the ones that make you extraordinary. Your attention to detail, that Virgo quality that notices everything, that holds a high standard, that refuses to settle, that is not a flaw. That is the architect in you. And she has been designing something that most people don't have the patience to wait for. Your self-awareness, that relentless ability to look at yourself honestly, to name your patterns, to sit with uncomfortable truths that other people spend entire lifetimes avoiding, that is not overthinking. That is the reason your foundation is solid when other people's cracks under pressure. Your tendency to hold things together, not because you are superhuman, but because you learned early that no one else was going to do it, that taught you strength. You don't even recognize as strength anymore because it's just how you operate. But this is the part I want you to hear. You have been doing the hardest kind of work, the kind that doesn't come with receipts. No one handed you a certificate for choosing yourself. No one threw a party for the night you decided you were done shrinking. No one saw the moment you set that boundary and your hands were shaking, but your voice was steady. No one was there when you closed that door and leaned against it and exhaled and thought, I just lost something I loved because I finally loved myself enough to let it go. The universe saw. The universe kept a record. Every invisible act of courage, every private victory, every time you chose the harder right over the easier wrong. It is all in the blueprint. It is all in the rooms that are waiting for you. And I need you to hear this next part especially, because this is the Virgo wound, and this eclipse is healing it. You are allowed to receive, without earning it first. You are allowed to be the one who is held instead of the one doing the holding. You are allowed to stop proving your worth through service and start living as someone who is worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You can put the armor down now. What is coming does not require you to fight for it. It requires you to let it in. Here is what opens for someone like you, someone who has been refined by fire and did not burn, someone who has done the work, someone who is standing at the edge of this eclipse with open hands. Within these next 7 days, something shifts in your body first, a lightness, a loosening of something you have been clenching without realizing it. The tension in your shoulders begins to soften. Sleep comes easier. You wake up one morning and realize the heaviness you've been carrying feels not gone, but lighter, like something was lifted in the night. Then the external world starts to mirror it. A name you haven't heard in months suddenly appears twice in one day. A stranger says the exact sentence you journaled last week. The answer to something you have been overthinking arrives casually, in a conversation you almost didn't have. And then the tangible shifts, the ones that connect to the prayers you've been whispering. The work situation that has felt stagnant shows a crack, an opening you did not create, but are perfectly positioned for. The relationship pattern that has repeated for years quietly breaks. Someone shows up who sees you not the version you perform, but the one you actually are. The piece you have been manufacturing with effort begins to arrive on its own, uninvited, like it was always waiting for you to stop trying so hard to create it. I am not telling you that in 7 days your entire life will be unrecognizable. I am telling you something more important than that. I am telling you that in 7 days something begins. And you will know it when it happens because it will not be subtle. It will feel like the first warm day after a winter that went on too long. Not summer yet, but the unmistakable proof that the season has turned. This is not coincidence. This is not wishful thinking. This is what happens when someone who has quietly rebuilt herself from the inside out finally meets the cosmic timing that was always headed her way. Imagine someone who spent months renovating a home, tearing down walls, rebuilding rooms, working through dust and doubt. And then one morning, she walks through a door she built with her own hands and finds herself standing in the most beautiful room she has ever seen. That is what is beginning. That someone is you. Everything I have described to you is real. It is available. It is close. But energy without intention is just weather. So let me give you something to carry into these next 7 days. Virgo does not need elaborate rituals. Virgo needs clarity. So here is what I want you to do. Take a piece of paper and write 2 things. On one side, write what you are ready to release. Not what you think you should release, what you are actually ready to let go of. The belief, the pattern, the fear, the name, the version of yourself that has expired. Name it. The act of naming it is the act of releasing it. On the other side, write what you are ready to receive. Not what you think is realistic. What you actually want. The peace, the love, the life. The room with the higher ceiling and the windows where the walls used to be. Write it down. Let your hand say what your mouth has been too afraid to. And then, for the next 7 days, pay attention, but do not grip. Notice what arrives without trying to control what it looks like. The Pisces sun asks you to surrender. The Virgo moon asks you to be discerning. Hold both. Trust and pay attention at the same time. That is the frequency this eclipse is asking you to hold. The eclipse opens the door. You walk through it before you go. And I mean this with every part of me. The next time you feel the dust, the next time you look at your life and it still looks unfinished and you start to wonder if the renovation was a mistake, I want you to remember what you learned here tonight. You are not living in a ruin. You are living in a house that is days away from completion. The walls are up. The light is coming in. And the door, the one you didn't know was there, it opens this week. This video found you for a reason, and now you know the reason. The life you prayed for. It heard you. Every word, every whisper, every 2 in the morning ache that you thought dissolved into nothing. It was all received. It was all recorded. And it is all being answered. Starting now. Starting within these next 7 days. Starting with you right here, in this moment. Finally knowing that you were never forgotten. Starting with this breath. This one, right now. You were being built for something beautiful. And it is almost here. Walk through the door.